Good morning, everybody. I was going to put a chair in there and sit down, but I'm changing my mind. I'm staying in here. I'm really excited to be here again. I want to open up with a huge thank you to the UUs for being one of the biggest supporters of Bienvenido's work. We really appreciate every time we hear from you, every time we get your support, and I hope you all know how much that means to us and to our community. There you go. I wanted to make this conversation a little different than I usually have done them when I have a presentation and I go through our programs and why they're important, and a little bit more about, in general, the complexity of being an immigrant in the U.S. is. So I'll just start with immigration is incredibly complex, from a historical point to a natural point to the paperwork and legality of everything. And I wish I could sum it in the next 20 minutes, but it will not give me time. It's not enough, the 10 years that a lawyer takes becoming an immigration lawyer and becoming an expert at it, and they still struggle with the constant change of immigration. So immigration, it cannot be reduced by words. An immigrant cannot be reduced by words. And I'm precisely saying we cannot be reduced by illegal or legal or documented or undocumented. I hope I'm preaching to the choir when I say that no person is illegal. You may do wrong, may do something wrong, but you're not illegal. We may disagree on different things, we may disagree on processes, but no human should be reduced to that one word. Even being documented and undocumented, it's an umbrella. When I say it's an umbrella, it's because it's not just as easy as, oh, I am a resident or I'm not. And that's what I kind of want to talk to you about. It's the huge umbrella of being undocumented, quote, unquote. I want to start with a quote that says, "Nobody leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark." Nobody wants to leave the comfort of being around your food and your culture and your family and your language unless it's 100% necessary. Being undocumented can mean so many things. It's not one category. And with that, I just want to start saying there's multiple ways that you come into a new country. You may come with a tourist visa because you come to see Disney World, or you are a DACA recipient, which means your parents came here undocumented a long time ago, and you were lucky that you were given a DACA status. It doesn't make you a permanent resident, it just allows you to go to school. You can be waiting for a process, so you can be an asylum or a refugee, which are different things. An asylum seeker comes upon the border and requests this asylum status. They express their fear to go back to their country. They tell their story to a judge, and the judge releases them into the country in the process of becoming an asylee. Becoming an asylum seeker, an approved asylee in the U.S. has a 5% chance winning, meaning only 5% of the people that go through the asylum process may actually get it after probably 5 to 10 years of waiting. While you wait, you are considered undocumented or not permanent resident, even though while you're waiting, you can ask for a work permit, you can work legally in the U.S., you can have a social security number and pay taxes, Many of the immigrants in our community here in Gallatin County are asylum seekers. They are working with a work permit. They have a social security number. They go to their kids go to school. They go to all the events and churches, but they're just waiting, and they're not considered legal, to say it like that. Many are pending applications. You can become a permanent resident, which is the ultimate status, if you are requested by a relative. If you're requested by a first-line relative, meaning your dad or your mom, or you're requesting your kids, it can take up to 2 years to become a permanent resident. But if you request your sister or brother, it can take up to 10. There are people that cross without inspection. They cross because there is no path for them, but there is also no way to go back. There is mixed status families where you might have a permanent resident in your family, a naturalized citizen, a born U.S. citizen, and then someone waiting for their status, and someone with no status because there was no pathway for them. And people who have been here for decades, multiple generations, grow companies, and still haven't found a pathway, not out of I don't want to, but because they don't exist. Again, just to summarize it, you can either come for a couple months as a tourist. You can be lucky that your parents or your kids may be able to request you after they are 18. You might be brought by your employer, and that's really difficult. You might be a refugee. Oh, and I skipped that part. My bad. The difference between an asylum and a refugee. I explained asylum. I didn't explain a refugee. So I explained asylum. A refugee is, let's say, you're in Ukraine, you cross to Poland, and you request refugee status. It takes you 2 years in Poland in order to get approved for your refugee status, and then you are matched with a country, US, one of them, not anymore, but used to. And then you land in a new town like Missoula. You get resettled by the agency, and then you start your new life in a new place because you had to run away to the nearest country and ask for help. When they come in, they already have a pathway to permanent residency. They already have paperwork. They can start working, and they start working on their English and their new life. It's a little more difficult before coming into the U.S. In contrast to an asylum seeker, but it's a little easier once you're inside in contracts with an asylum seeker. I hope that makes sense. I won't go far deeper into the different pathways. I was saying you can do a refugee resettlement, you can do asylum process, you can have millions of dollars and become an investor, and then that is a pathway. Or you can, and that's it. So unless you have a family member, a great a job already lined up here, or a citizen or permanent residency family member, that's it. No other pathway. No, if you just want to ask for a job. No, if you just want to move here for a job. And even when you have a work visa, you run into a very, very difficult pathway. When you have a work visa, your employer provides you work, housing, transportation. And those are the 3 main things that allow you freedom. So I, as your employer, controlled your income, I control where you live, and I control how you move around. So if I want to control you, I got you. You can't work for anybody else. You can't live anywhere else. And you can't move anywhere else. So it's a tricky situation to be in if everything that allows you freedom belongs to someone. And I have to say, unfortunately, we do run into these situations where they're not getting paid enough, and they don't have the right to ask for anything but I give you housing. So if you don't want to work for me, then you have to move out. If you don't want to work for me, then you can't work anywhere else because I own your working visa. You can only work for me. So it's a tricky situation. There's wonderful employers out there, but there is some that take advantage that they can ship, and I hate to say it, but they can ship in workers that will work for them and not fight back if I want to lower their wages. Or it's a low season and I don't have 40 hours for you, so you work 20, but you can't work anywhere else. So why do people migrate? I think for many cases, it's easy to think if you meet a immigrant from Ukraine, an immigrant from Venezuela, an immigrant from places where war and politics are so difficult that it made life completely unlivable, if that's a word in English. But I want to be careful in this part because there is not one single immigrant story. Violence and insecurity, it's a reason. Gang violence, cartels, wars where none of us have a saying on. Sometimes I feel like even the people that have a say on don't know what they're saying, but where there's political instability. Because violence and insecurity, it's complex and it's so entangled among countries. And I want to say this with the most care, but violence does not only belong in one country. And I want to use my country as an example. I'm from Colombia, and I think we all know the story and the history of Colombia and cartels and drugs. And I say this with so much care that the issues in my country do not only belong to my country, the same way that you don't blame supply without blaming demand. You don't blame the issues that so many other countries struggle with curing the horrible pain of drug addiction. If we don't care for those, then the problem continues. And when I say this is because, yeah, my country may have struggled and still struggles with this, which forces many people out of their homes. In my country, many people are forced out of their farms because they're taken over by cartels, and then they moved into the city, and then cities are already packed and they don't have other option than maybe look outwards. It's not just an internal issue. Wars are not just an internal issue. Violence is not just an internal issue. So violence and insecurity is one of the main reasons why people leave, why people have to leave. We have family reunification as a reason. Someone may have already left and created a pathway. That was my case. My dad moved here when I was 3 years old. And when I graduated from high school, I said to myself, I can graduate from college here in my country, but what if I go and be with my dad and graduate from college there? College from the US will work anywhere else. And I will be speaking English, and I will be able to go around the country and maybe get a better job back home. And then my dad moved when I was 3, so I didn't know my dad. So it was kind of interesting to get to meet my dad. Don't recommend it. I love my dad. Oh my God, if my dad would have heard that, he would have been like, what? But no, I love my dad, but it's difficult when you spend so much time apart. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go quicker. Environmental issues and economic displacement, and this is also a multi-nation issue. Because why would people move out of their green areas and their wonderful places? Well, large corporations can come into these beautiful areas and push people out. Pollution, water, everything gets destroyed around them, everything that they know, and they have to move. Labor opportunities, family safety. So many reasons. And I want to also say something that I strongly believe and want to share with you, and is I think migration is the most natural right we all have. From the tectonic plates right under us, who move and migrate, to the birds above us, to the jaguar that goes all the way from North America to South America every year. Every single being has the right to migrate because the world belongs to all of us, and humans decided to draw lines around it. Migration is common. That's how many of us look different, of different colors and heights and eye colors, and speak so many languages. And someone may have a grandfather from Europe and from Africa, and we all move around. It's what we're meant to do. And if we don't stop the bird from moving from one country to the other, why do we put so much hardship to a mother that is moving from one country to the other to give their kids a better life? I'm going to skip this part, but I'm going to let you assume how costly it is to go through the pathway of immigration. And I'll just start it with the fact that SIJS is a pathway. It's a juvenile visa for kids that have been separated from one parent or both, and they are looking for a new pathway in the U.S. We've helped a lot of our kiddos are unaccompanied minors, mean they cross the border alone, and we've been able to support many go through the pathway of SIJS visa. But the start point for the legal representation of it is $5,000 for them and their new guardian. And then everything goes up from there. Many retainers don't go below $10,000 just to get an immigration lawyer. So it's not easy to get legal representation. And I mean, nobody wants to go through the immigration process on their own. Nobody wants to go to court on their own. It's very intimidating as an English speaker, born in the U.S. with maybe nothing to lose, to go defend your traffic ticket in front of a lawyer. Like, if you ever had to do that, if you ever have to stand in the court and be like, yes, I found myself guilty of speeding, I'll pay my ticket. If you've ever had to done that or seen someone do it, it's very intimidating. And that is as simple as a court can be. Imagine it being in a different language on a very complex process like an immigration process. So you want legal representation. And because these times are breeding ground for having fraudulent lawyers, and we deal with them all the time. Fraudulent lawyers that take advantage of fear and not understanding and take thousands of dollars from families and then disappear. And we come across those very often. So I'm going to wrap it up because I'm out of my time. But I want to close it with all this fear actually creates uncertainty, and it creates lack of trust on our friends, on our neighbors, but especially on the system. And I think about it, if I'm a teenager, I moved at 17, so I was a teenager, but I didn't have the fear that teens have nowadays, immigrant teens have nowadays, with the idea of immigration persecution that is happening right now. And the fact that they're getting all their information from social media. I'm not that old. I did get all my information when I was a teenager from social media too. And they're hearing horrible things. And if you're a teen in a party and you made a mistake, or if you're a mother and your kid is very sick, I don't want them to fear to call the police. I don't want them to fear to call an ambulance. I don't want them to fear to go to the hospital, but those are the cases that we're running into. And you know who they will call? Amanda Cater, their friendly neighbor. Ita Killeen, that I think some of you know, their friendly neighbor. Paul Stuffer, also members of here that became mentors for families, but that also became friendly neighbors, that didn't feel scared to go up to a family and welcome them into their new world and into their new life. So that's my call for you all, and my invitation is, we can't change the immigration process tonight, and we can't change politics and wars and any of that tonight, but you can become the friendly neighbor and let everybody feel welcome and that they belong. Thank you so much.